Ready? Oh, silence. You're real good at being quiet, aren't you? It's impressive.
It must be the scary face, David.
You know me too well, Bob. Right, just before we start this afternoon's programme, Nigel, our fuels man, just mentioned to me before lunch that he actually sits on the BSI, what's called PT/2 Fuels Committee. So, there you are. It's all right, I was looking around the room. You've taken your jacket off now. There you go. That confuses the process if people change mode of dress, doesn't it? So that's Nigel there. Nigel actually sits on this BSI committee. So actually we do have a way of influencing fuels policy going forward. So thank you for saying that, Nigel. And obviously if you want to talk to Nigel when we have a cup of tea, when we've finished, then please do so. Okay, might be good for you, David, as well. Right, good afternoon, welcome back. Thank you for being timely. So 2 presentations this afternoon. First one from Tom Worthington of Trevi, and then the second one is from Paul and team from Genus IT. Oops, sorry. Can I go back one slide, guys, please? That's it. No, back one. Back. Oh, back. Right back, guys. Chris. That's it. Stop there. Right. I Bernie the Bolt for those of a certain age, isn't there? A partnership with Trevi. Tom and I actually signed a memorandum of understanding at Classic Motor Show last November. So bear in mind, there's even a picture of us doing it. Bear in mind that what he's talking about is less than 1 year's activity, and it has been incredibly successful. Trevi will be at Classic Motor Show again with us this year. Tom, over to you.
Hi folks, I'm Tom Worthington from Trevi. David's asked us along stage to give you a bit of an update on what we've been up to this last year and how sort of the future will hopefully look. But before I get into that, just a big thank you really to David, committee members that have all helped to set up the scheme, Paul, Tim, certainly on the website as well. It's been a real successful year, and again, thank you to you clubs that have all got involved and your individual members. It's been, as you'll see in a moment, there's been loads of activity happening with the scheme, and we're really proud of how it's gone. I was here at the January Expo, so some of you have heard me talk before, but for those that haven't, just a little bit of a run through about who we are, what we're doing with the Federation. So Trevi, we were founded in 2021. We're a family-run company, and we were inspired when we got our Morris Minor Myrtle, who's just snuck into the family portrait there in the bottom left. We wanted to get Myrtle. We also wanted to be environmentally friendly. We even considered, well, is it responsible to get a Morris Minor? Should we not use our minor budget to buy an electric car as our everyday car? But we really wanted a historic vehicle, lifelong passion, really wanted to get involved. So we thought, well, I've heard of this carbon offsetting in the media. Surely it's a really simple thing to do. So we got our Morris Minor, loved it ever since. Big shout out to the Morris Miners Owners Club. We again thought, okay, nice and simple, let's carbon offset it. And we struggled to do that. It's a really complicated process with a lot of these companies. You have to fill in how many times you put the kettle on a day, how many hours of Netflix you watch, which I didn't really want to admit. We thought it should just be a nice, simple process to sort your vehicle out, because you know how many miles you do, you know how many how much petrol you put in or diesel. Surely it's a really simple calculation. It wasn't, so we founded Trevi. And for us, it's all about, and this is where the Federation, working with them, has been awesome. For us, it's not just about the environmental aspect. It is, as others have said, making sure that we are seen as a socially responsible community. We wanted to give people an easy way to do something environmental, make sure that they can shout about it under a united banner. And it was awesome when we spoke to the Federation, they were looking to set up such a scheme for their members and obviously your members beyond. And that's where we've gone with it. So as David said, stealing my line, we signed a memorandum of understanding at the November Classic Motor Show, and we launched the website in December. So we're still shy of a year of operation of the Federation scheme, which we deliver on their behalf. Uptake has been brilliant. We've got on the website, it's a really nice, simple to use website that Tim designed. You can go on, all you need to know is your vehicle type and how many miles a year you do. You don't need to think about the type of fuel, know your exact gallons per year. 2 nice simple metrics that people can use, and then that takes them through to make their purchase. I think there's 9 different vehicle types on there. We've had every single vehicle type sign up, Massey Fergusons to Rolls Royces. I think someone did a tank through the military vehicle thing. I think it might be a tank. They've got a tank, I'm not going to argue with them. So we've had everyone sign up, it's been brilliant. And as Tim said, I think sort of 500 odd transactions, but so many people have done more than one vehicle through each transaction. So I think we're well over sort of 750 vehicles. Those stickers that you can see in the bottom right, that's another thing that we send out. Those stickers around the UK shouting loud and proud about the environmentally conscious community that we are. In terms of how it all works and what we do for the Federation, when an individual goes onto the website to sign up, they will go through, they'll select their vehicle type, they'll select their mileage, then they will pay their money and we will send them a sticker and then lots of regular updates to keep them engaged with the scheme, and then we will look after the carbon capturing, which I will come on to in a moment, to make sure that environmental step has been taken. There is going to be a new sticker. That's the 2022 sticker. We have just signed off on a nice FBHVC burnt orange one for 2023. Ooh. So that will be launched at the November Motor Show for all those people sort of signing up for their second years. I get to use I'm inspired by Lindsay. I'm going to use, here we go. Nailed it. In terms of, that's how we work with individual members, but obviously FBHV members are you clubs, you traders, you museums. So we also work closely with a whole variety there. This is just a selection of who we've worked with, but there's some really good stories in here. So we've got clubs such as Elvis, Sunbeam, Club Triumph. Some of those have done rallies, sort of like coast to coast for Club Triumph. Some have done their annual rallies. So that's sort of a static event, but they've carbon captured their members' journeys to and from the event and sort of that cumulative mileage. That's a great story. We've got the Fiat Motor Club, for example. They actually carbon captured the vehicles they had on the Practical Classic stand. So they got 6 display vehicles. They carbon captured them, which you could say means their stand was carbon captured. We've got the Brough Superior. It's not just about the cars, it's bikes. And we've also got the North Norfolk Vintage Vehicle Club, which have actually appointed a carbon capturing officer to their committee. They've opened up, I suppose, a line of credit with us, I suppose you could call it. And they keep in touch every couple of months. They are carbon capturing all their events and then sort of paying that off in that manner. And then we've got the Vintage Sparks Car Club, which some of you might have seen in the media. We've done a scheme with them. Well, they've gone through the Federation scheme, and they've actually carbon captured all the events they are doing this year, 2023 and 2024, so that all their hill climbs, their track days, and all their auto tests. So it's been a real mixed of engagement we've had on the club front, which I think is excellent, especially in this first year where we're looking for case studies. We're looking to see that this scheme, it's adaptable. I think Malcolm said we're professional and supportive, which of course we are, but we can adapt the sort of the mechanics of carbon capturing to any scheme. But it's not just the clubs. We work with the traders. So we've got Genus, I don't know they're in the room. They've carbon captured all their commercial vehicles. So when they're out working with all you clubs, all those miles that they're out in their vans are environmentally friendly. We also work with museums. So museums, we can help them capture their collection. So when their collection's out and about for open days, drive it days, those admittedly few miles that those collections do are all being carbon captured, and we can also help them work on carbon capturing their visitors and all that kind of thing. But ultimately, we love working with the clubs because you're the hook. You are the people that can encourage the individuals to go to the Federation's website and sign up for the year on their behalf. So what we do for clubs, if you work with us on an event, we will send you our event media packs. That includes a terminology guide, FAQs, pictures of the woodland, pictures of me, because obviously you need that in your magazine to show off the initiative. And basically, we will help you explain to your members why you've taken such carbon capturing steps for your event. Likewise, companies, museums, we can do the same as well. And in the last couple of months, we've actually launched something called the endorsement scheme. So this is a free scheme. Any club can sign up to it, no commitment. You just sign up, and what we will do, every other month, sort of alternating sort of to the FBHVC news months, we will send you some material to your magazine editor that sort of talks about the scheme, and again, just helps people be encouraged to go towards the FBHVC's website to sign up for the year if they wish. Everything we're doing, it's not a tax, it's not compulsory, we're hoping just to encourage more and more to sign up. So as you'll see at the end, we've got some great numbers already that are really making the statements that David and Lindsay have said, sort of politically, lobbying-wise, we need to be showing that we are a green community. We know we don't do loads of miles, but the outside world doesn't know that, and this is a way of mitigating those criticisms. Yes, the button still works. So, I've been talking about carbon capture, and I teased earlier that we'd be talking about that, and I know this is why you've all come back from lunch to hear about trees. So, we're doing carbon capture with the Federation, but to take one step back, dealing with your emissions through woodland and things like this, overall it's called carbon balancing. So there's two ways of doing that. There's carbon offsetting, which we might all know more in the media. That's the phrase that is bandied around a lot more. So that is when we're talking about carbon. It's carbon dioxide that comes from our exhaust. Carbon offsetting is when you invest overseas in reducing carbon emissions from industry that's happening overseas, or protecting overseas forestry from deforestation. In effect, you're saying, well, I'm allowed to do my emissions in the UK because I have offset some emissions happening elsewhere in the world. That's carbon offsetting. Carbon capture, which is the scheme we deliver on behalf of the Federation, that is about planting new woodland here in the UK, that as it grows, those trees will carbon capture carbon dioxide in the air and lock it in. So I'm sure we all remember from school, photosynthesis and how a tree grows, it will absorb carbon dioxide, and as it grows, it will store that carbon dioxide in its trunks as sap. So just like humans, when we're growing, we tend to store a little bit of timber. That's how the trees work. So those trees, when they're planted, they will absorb it. They will then lock it in. As long as those trees are never destroyed, that carbon will be locked in forever, which mitigates our vehicle emissions. We're planting in Tom's Wood, North Yorkshire. It was called that before. I bribed David to pick that particular project because of my ego. But we've been planting in Tom's Wood, North Yorkshire, so it's just sort of northeast of York, sort of in the Howardian area of natural beauty. And we work with a company called Forest Carbon, who are our accredited planting partner. So all the planting that is done is under the authority of the UK Woodland Carbon Code. All the carbon credits created by the planting of trees are registered on the UK Land Carbon Registry. And the way it works is tree planting season happens November to March. So these are pictures of the trees that were planted during last tree planting season. We're having some new ones soon because planting season is upon us. Those trees are planted by Forest Carbon. Then as we need them, as we work as a group and need those carbon credits, we can then purchase the carbon credits off Forest Carbon. They are in our name, they are publicly registered, and then those trees are protected forever on behalf of sort of Federation, Trevi, and everyone really, to say that is locked in. In terms of Tom's Wood itself, so the key thing when we're talking about accredited carbon capture schemes is they have to be verifiable. They have to be done to certain guidelines. You can't just chuck a few trees up in your front lawn. So at Tom's Wood, they plant these 5 different trees: alder, birch, wild cherry, goat, willow and sycamore. It's always indigenous trees that are planted. They are the ones that will grow the best, settle in the best, the ones that won't damage the surrounding environment and actually will improve the environment around them. And as you can see here, there's additional benefits to a planting project. So we're not just doing something that helps tackle our carbon dioxide. We're also improving the community, we're improving jobs created in terms of looking after the woodland, we're improving the wildlife. So these trees, as they grow, they will improve the biodiversity around them, the canopy underneath them, and all of those additional benefits. Tom's Wood at the minute is a project run by Forest Carbon that lots of different people are feeding into, and I know mine and David's ultimate ambition is one day there is a Federation forest, and we hope with the support of everyone we can justify the need for one, because as you can see, projects include thousands and thousands of trees, and you need to be able to say, we are going to need that many trees over X amount of years. So Tom's Wood, it was a project started back in 2020, so it's into its sort of third planting season coming up. In the end, it's going to be 28,000 odd trees. It's going to capture 14,000 odd tonnes. And as I'll see in a moment, we are already a very, very impressive percentage of those 28,000, which is great news for us. So that's the tree planting we do. So to sort of recap, an individual can go onto the website, they can capture their car for the year. For their money, they will get a sticker in their vehicle to shout about it, and we will ensure the right amount of trees are planted. To give you an idea, an average classic, such as our Morris Miners, say doing 1,500 miles a year, is going to be about 2 trees a year are planted to carbon capture their emissions. If a club works with us, we'll do all the same sort of maths, but then we will just do it as a one-off payment that that event has needed sort of 100 trees planted to capture its cumulative impact. And that is our tree planting. And then these are the headline stats, which I've been saving till the end. So as David said, this is less than a year old. If you think we launched sort of November, website went live in December, a lot of you clubs, you're already well on the way to planning next year's events by then. So we know that it was kind of, this is very much a first taster year to sort of try and explain the concept to people. We have already captured 1,438,717 miles as of yesterday, cumulatively between the individuals and the clubs. That's 641 tonnes of carbon that has been captured, equating to about 1,800 to 1,900 trees, depending which species are exactly planted, in what mix. And, you know, I hope that's a very impressive stat to take to Parliament when we're doing the lobbying, when we're, as Wayne says, when we're doing stuff in the non-motoring media, when we're explaining the steps we're taking. And just to sort of finish, really, here's a few nice photos of all those people that have got involved, that have sent us pictures during the summer, which we love to see. They've got their stickers nice and proudly on their car. But that's just a very quick run through of what we've been up to. In terms of going forward, I'd love to hear ideas about how you think we could improve the scheme, what are the things it could build towards. We've had some interesting conversations about biofuels, which, you know, I'm not a chemist, that's not our area of expertise, but if we are a sticking plaster until biofuels are the solution, maybe, I don't know. But anything really, get your views on how it's landed in the groups, in the clubs, and what we can do going forward. And yeah, we spoke to a fair few of you in the foyer already, but come and speak to us afterwards. We can give you some ideas of how the endorsement scheme works, get you signed up to that as it's free, as I say, or give you a quote for sort of club events next year. But I'll do what everyone else does and go, any questions? And then try and sneak off quickly. There's no questions, David, I'm done.
There are.
No, I can't see any, no.
All over the place.
It's time to go, isn't it?
I was going to ask you a real awkward question.
Oh, great.
Really? Yeah.
This doesn't sound like you at all.
Shall I do it anyway?
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
No one's watching.
Stand up,
We're not broadcast to the nation.
So, you know, you've answered this before, but I think it's worth, I think it's worth people hearing the answer. So, Forest Carbon. I've been on the website. I can see I can go and buy some trees from Forest Carbon. Why do I need to work through Treeby?
I haven't teed him up for that. That is a great question.
He didn't know this was coming.
We haven't rehearsed. So the reason to go through Treeby and the reason to go to the Federation scheme is that cumulative impact. We love anyone that does the environmental things. We've spoke to some people and they've gone, actually, no, we're going to plant some trees in our local park. We are well on board with that as Treeby. But ultimately, if we're going to make an impression on the non-petrol head public, we need to be doing it under a united banner and saying, we as a community do this kind of scheme. We as a community take this kind of stance. That is why it is great to do it as a group under a sort of a standardised scheme across the community. Yes, you can go to Forest Carbon and buy a few trees. Happy to encourage you that. They are awesome to work with. We really like them. They know their stuff. Go ahead. But also, they won't give you a sticker for your car. Who doesn't love a car sticker? And they won't help you shout about it as part of a wider group. They also won't do bespoke quotes such as clubs, events and things like that.
Yeah, and I think the important thing for me is really that I think having an intermediary who can actually understands what the historic vehicle, the classic car scene is. Got one. Enjoy driving, Myrtle.
Enjoy fixing.
But how do you go and talk to someone like Forest Carbon and ask some of the questions that you ask for us?
Definitely. I think we always call ourselves the oily fingers and then the green fingers. We aren't tree planters. Like, you should not see the state of our garden at home. We are not horticultural people. When we first spoke to them, we spoke to quite a few different people, Woodland Trust, various other people, and they didn't get the concept that the historic car vehicle community might want to do something like this. They thought there'd be no appetite. They didn't understand the equations of it, the maths of it, and how we would even contemplate to do the right number of trees. Once we said we would handle that, as you say, an intermediary, we could handle that stage, and we can just give them the simple figure of, we need to carbon capture, please, 641 tonnes, thank you. They will go away and plant the trees and look after the trees. Part of what the service they provide is they will go back every 5 years. That's part of the official Woodland Carbon Code. They go back every 5 years, they check the trees are growing, they check they're being maintained, they make sure a buffer is planted in case trees aren't growing as high as they want them to, and they will make sure that those carbon credits are registered. They will do all of that, but they will not understand the concept of, so we have a static show and then this many cars are coming, then we're going to have a little drive out into the countryside. That will blow their minds. So that is where we step in as an intermediary and help them really just get to the greenery stuff, and we handle the wheels.
Okay, very good. I'll let you off the hook. Carl, go for it. Bob's keen right at the back.
Thank you. To sort of move the debate forward, I need to understand that 641.91 figure. What is the underlying assumption upon which that figure is done? I ask because, looking at the photographs we saw earlier, clearly not all of the trees planted at that density will reach maturity. That's obviously part of the plan. There's going to be woodland management and it's going to thin it out. So what is the assumption that you use, tree by tree as it were, for how you get to that number of tonnes?
Very good question. So let's get the spreadsheets out. Let's get our maths nerd on. So going right back to the start, so it's a whole process. So we work closely with Paul and the national survey the Federation did last year, the year before. So from there, we were able to work out sort of average miles per gallons of vehicles and the different vehicle types, and that's what powers the maths sort of in the Federation's website, which is why people don't need to enter their MPGs. They can just enter their mileage. That's also how we worked out the mileage bands, incidentally. From the survey, we know an average of mileage per vehicle type. The lower band is half that, the upper band is twice that. So in terms of the maths, that's the first stage. That's how that's verified. We then will take that maths, and the bit we do is where we work out, well, therefore, how much carbon is emitted by a vehicle doing within those parameters. So we use the UK government's tables, the conversion tables, all of the official DEFRA data that helps you do the calculations to compute sort of gallons of petrol into kilograms of carbon dioxide. That's then the mass that gets us to that 641. And I think your question was about sort of how do Forest Carbon know 641 tonnes are going to be captured? Well, that's through their work that they've done for years now. They've been established 15, 20 years. They've got all the data, and this is where we don't get involved. This is why it's great to work with someone like them. They have got the data, part of the Woodland Forest Carbon Code, that knows that if a sycamore grows, it will grow to X amount. They know that a grown sycamore will store a certain amount of carbon dioxide in its sap. They know they've got 100 sycamores planted. They know a wild birch perhaps captures a different amount, but they've got 1,000 of them within the project. So therefore, at the start of the project, when they go in and they look at that parcel of land, they can go, well, on this land, we can plant X amount of trees. So we can estimate that it will capture Y amount of carbon. That then means that is what they are checking over those verification cycles. As those trees grow, they are making sure they meet those expectations. As I mentioned, they've got the buffer in case they don't, but it's all about that verification, that woodland management that they provide ongoing. I think you see, like, the HS2 projects have been happening. They've just been chucking trees along the side of it. They've not been looked after. Those trees have died. They haven't done the carbon capturing predicted. These schemes do, because they're verified. And they also know that a tree, takes a while to grow. It's absorbing during all of that time. It's about the 15-year point that the capturing is completed, and we can go, yes, we have captured what that tree was expected to.
So technically, and I'm really not being destructive, technically that 641.91 tonnes will be captured over the life of the trees that are planted. That's
Yeah.
so. Rather than saying it has been captured, it will be. It is predicted to be, and almost certainly will be captured. That's the intention.
Exactly. So
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
I now
no.
understand.
No, it's a good question. So yeah, it's, you know, that 641 tonnes isn't out of the atmosphere today. Someone wasn't going around and grabbing it and doing whatever with it. It will be captured over its lifetime. We always say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So yes, it's a long burn project, but it's one that is still making sure that in 20 years, our emissions from today are no longer in the air. And obviously the tree is alive for a lot longer than the time past its capturing stage.
Yeah, hi, Mike Jordan, Mark 1 Container Owners Club. I've got a quote for our show next year, so I'll be looking at that and proposing it to our AGM tomorrow. But can I just ask you, bearing in mind what Putin's doing, this country, I as a councillor am getting lambasted all the time, well, not lambasted, but pushed all the time to make sure that good agricultural land is used for growing food rather than solar farms, which I'm about to get a load of. Is this land suitable for good agriculture, or is it third quality land and therefore trees are the best option for it?
Yeah, trees are the best option. Again, that's all part of the scoping that Forest Carbon do. That's how they become verified projects. What often happens to the projects are they are woodlands that had perhaps fallen into disrepair, had been removed over time, so it's restoring that woodland. So again, it brings back that natural habitat. But I think it's a very good point about food, and yeah, I think they are one of the things that we have to talk about.
Peter Lockley, Standard Motor Club. How secure is the Forest Carbon site against any sort of redevelopment or risks of Forest Carbon going bust or anything like that?
It's a good question. So if Forest Carbon, you know, say they were to close up shop, the carbon credits are still registered in our name. They're not registered with Forest Carbon. They are on the land registry. That's not tied, so they will always be ours. The trees, they're protected under UK law as part of that Woodland Carbon Code. The landowner has a responsibility to replace any that are destroyed or fall down and things like that. So they're very well protected. And again, that's why it's important it's a verified project. Oh, it's the media. No comment. Exactly. It's instinct.
Thank you. That's a great result for less than a year of carbon capturing. What I was wondering is, if you're in this room this time next year, what kind of figures do you want to be telling people at that point?
We would love to be double that. I think that's a nice, simple target. We'd like to retain everyone that signed up in this first year and get the same again. I think it's been a great taster year. We've got lots of success stories, lots of case studies now. I think it'd be great to get more on board.
Thank you.
Mervyn Larner, TVR Car Club. Surely the issue is what happens to the end of life. Otherwise the carbon gets released back into the atmosphere or dreadfully is burnt in the Drax power station as wood chips. Because you're capturing, but of course it's the end of life of the forest that is the issue as well.
Definitely. So you're right about like trees being burnt for fuel. Like that's what offsetting does. That is to protect trees from having that happen. In terms of the end of life, it's a great point, but that's why it's important it's a project rather than just random trees, because that project is looked after, the management of it. It means the wider biodiversity is happening. So when that tree does die, it falls down, it rots, but then obviously that gives substance to life of other trees that will grow in its place. Like it is sort of in 100 years, you will be looking at the Forest Carbon project to think, okay, some of the original trees aren't left, but others are now there that wouldn't be, that are capturing, that are storing. So yeah, we know we can't keep trees alive forever, but they do add to the whole sort of ecosystem. Feels really weird waiting for the microphone to arrive. I feel like I should entertain people, I'll do.
Well, Tom, further to our brief discussion this morning, as you know, we have a number of our members, I would call them the vociferous minority, who think this is a load of nonsense. And one of their criticisms is that Forest Carbon, who are well established, work with a lot of major organisations, not least Scottish Government. There is no mention of Trevi or the FBHVC on Forest Carbon's website. Is it possible that your relationship with them could persuade them to at least include some sort of mention so that when our cynics go onto their website, they can at least see that there is a legitimate cooperation between the three parties?
That's a great point. So at the moment, it's because we're feeding into a big general project. The ones that I've mentioned there have got their own dedicated forests. So when you see Scottish Government, it's because they've got that a whole project is ring fenced for them. At the moment, we're feeding, as I say, into one in Tom's Wood. So I think I'll definitely take that away. I think that's a great point that we'll perhaps do a blog with them or just something, as you say, to sort of show that we're all working together. Because I know they're certainly astounded by how much we've been doing with them. Every time we ask them to plant some more trees, they're like, really? But yeah, I think that's a great point that it would be nice to have that on there. But as I say, our aim is one day our own Federation website, which would have the big splash that you see from Scottish Government's projects, etc. I'm going to count down from 10, and if no more hands go up, I'm going to run away. I'm not really going to count. Any more folks? Otherwise, come and see us. As I say, happy to give a quote today, have to take your details. Happy to sign you up for the endorsement scheme. But yeah, it's been lovely speaking to you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. Well done. I think this is, we're in a great place. Less than a year in, I think, I know that at Classic Motor Show this year, we will have quite a big feature on trees, even stage prop trees and trees planted on the walls of our stand.
Have a Marcos on the stand.
Sorry?
Have a Marcos on the stand. The wooden car.
Thank you, Anders. But really, really good focus next month, and I think if we can beat 1.4 million in the next 12 months, I think that'll be a good place. And as Tom said at the beginning, it's a really powerful message when you go in Westminster to actually be able to say, well, we've captured 1.4 million miles in less than a year. We're doing our bit in a coordinated way for the historic vehicle movement. And I think it's those last three words that are actually the important thing. So Tom and Gemma will be outside when we're done. We've got a cup of tea coming for you to have before you hit the road, as it were. By all means, go and talk to them again. Right, now, as they say, for something totally different, let's talk digitisation. Come on, Paul. So I'd like to introduce Paul Negus, Managing Director of Genus IT, with his able assistants, Chris, and Andrew over there as well. So similar slot, sort of 30 minutes worth, including questions. And hopefully this will give you some useful information to take back to your clubs. Go on, Paul.
Thank you, David, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paul Negus, Managing Director of Genus. We've been working with the Federation for just over a year now, so I thought it's a good opportunity just to explain what we've been doing and also the kind of members of the Federation that we've been working with as well, to give you an understanding of what we do. Before I get on to that, though, I thought it was a good opportunity to thank the Federation themselves, Andy, and David and Emma, they do an enormous amount of work behind the scenes, not just with us, but from what I see travelling the country at Blyton and Goodwood, at Shelsley Walsh, they're there representing you all the time. So, and that's not just communicating with organisations like Jenna. So I think from all the members, I think thanks must go to them and all the rest of the committee for the work that's done behind the scenes. It's very incredible. But I brought my colleagues here today, just in case anybody throws me any sort of weird, difficult questions at the end, like how big is a piece of A4 paper. So if there are any technical questions, Andrew there and Chris. Chris is the joint owner of Genus with myself. Andrew does all the sales work. Used to be 10 years in charge of British Library digitisation, so he comes from a prestigious background in terms of digitisation, a lot of knowledge about copyright as well. So a good person to talk to, and we'll be there at the end to have a communication with as well. I think that's gone a bit too quickly. Oh, can we go back a bit? I think I've got, I missed about 5 or 6 slides there. Right, it's gone.
That was your first one, Paul.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're missing a few. Well, I mean, this is just to give an idea of some of the organisations we've been working with. The British Motor Museum here. Actually, no, that's not my first slide. We've got a background on the company. Should be there.
Oh, that wasn't there. Hang on. You might have to try to remember.
try and wing it. we have another copy we brought with us on a memory stick. Okay, no problem.
Oh, there's 2 missing. Chris, could you run this off a memory stick? Yeah. Have we got?
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Oh, sorry.
Man at the back of the room.
There we go. Cheers. Thank you. Oops. Shall I wait for the slide to go onto the?
Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. Was that was?
That's number 6 or 7, I think.
Yeah. Well, if you do it off the stick, then.
Yeah, it'll work. There we go. Perfect. Okay, there we go. Fixed. The IT problem's fixed. So just to give you a little bit of background of who we are, because I say we've only been with you a year, so I think it's important that you get to know our faces and also a little bit about us. So we're a completely privately owned family company. My father started it in 1974. Myself and Chris own the company. We have 50 employees based in Nuneaton in Warwickshire with a £3.5 million turnover. We have our own privately owned 13,000 square foot premises, and archive services are what we specialise in. We come from a microfilm background, but we digitise documents. We also sell the equipment to digitise as well, and I have 5 engineers who support that equipment up and down the country. We have 3 digitisation studios in Nuneaton as well, which are constantly changing as and when we take on new clients and do new projects. They're the type of things that we've been digitising for the Federation members. So technical manuals, parts lists, and that can be either paper or microfilm or microfiche. engineering drawings, prints, promotional brochures, club newsletters. We even do VHS tapes as well. We convert them. Microfilm, that's our history, so 16, 35mm microfilm, microfiche, aperture cards, which have engineering information on normally, A0 plans. We also are just getting into 3D image modelling as well, which is something we're hoping to show at the Classic Car Show in November. We also have our digital asset management product, Recollect, which you can see on the kiosk outside on our stand, for what you do with the images once you've had them digitised. It's all very well having them digitised, but why are you digitising them? Is it to monetise those items? Is it to share within your club? Or is it just to safeguard them for historical reasons before those boxes go, or all those shoe boxes in lofts everywhere around the country disappear or get sold? And we also do print fulfillment as well. That's part of what we do. We have 2 print machines, and I'll mention in a moment. For some of the Federation members, not only do we scan their content, but we offer printed versions of that, drivers' contracts, photographs, so you can actually monetize your content so that you can get that money back into the club for further digitisation or club projects. So these are some of the clients that we've worked with in the Federation. I think Andy will know this one. For the Roots Archive Centre Trust, we've scanned aperture cards, which are microfilm aperture cards with engineering drawings on. A lot of technical manuals, and also those manuals have been on photographic negatives as well as the aperture cards, as well as a number of prints and negatives as well. The Riley Cars Archive Heritage Trust. Again, we've got some images of some of their items there. You see it's similar to the combination of sales brochures, club magazines, technical manuals, lots of photographic prints and negatives as well. British Racing Motors, who are here today. I think I'm going to put your hand up, Nick. Nick Owen from the Owen family, who started the BRM, or basically got it moving to its internationally acclaimed success. We've done an enormous amount of work for BRM, and on the Recollect platform outside, you'll see their whole collection is there for public display. And you can navigate through drivers, cars, circuits. You can link all those up and put in information in there. You can even geotag circuits and places where the photographs are taken as well. So you can create a whole story around your collection and allow your members or the general public to actually come in and add their comments to those photos or documents as well, and say, that was my grandfather in that photo, that was taken here, that was taken there. They could have their own story, their own collections that they want to add into that mass collection of BRM as well. So we've captured a lot of content for BRM situated in 5 or 6 different libraries up and down the country, and we're now starting to add the private collections into that as well. And we can actually earmark those private collections to who owns them, going back to the whole copyright issue. So if you've got members, so I've got a large collection that I want to give to the club, but I need it to be identified as my family's, that can be done as well. And with BRM, we even captured all their trophies, of which there are an enormous amount. I think there's over 40, wasn't there, Nick? Something along those lines. So we can do that as well, and that's part of our 3D project moving forward as well. The National Motorcycle Museum, I think most people will be aware of the Bruce Main Smith Archive. We're in the middle of capturing all that, and their policy is they're going to sell copies of those manuals. So again, it comes back, it's not just digitising, it's monetising that content as well, providing value back into the club. So a lot of manuals, motorcycle manuals. Yeah, the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust, going back to our historic area of microfilm, we have about 12 microfilm scanners in Nuneaton, and all manner of microfilm information we can actually turn into digital information as well. The Daimler and Lanchester Owners Club, That was mainly their club magazine archive. But we also provide OCR servicing for that as well. So it's not just making a copy of the document, we can OCR them, optical character recognition, so that people can do searches on it. So if you've got a certain word in there, you're wanting to look for a family name or a car name or a circuit, you can actually use your content that has maybe been kept in cardboard boxes so far to actually open up the information inside that content as well. So we can, depending on the type of text, normally typewritten text is all OCRable. Handwritten, they haven't found the full answer to that one yet. That tends to be manually entered. But if you've got text, then we can OCR that as part of our process in terms of digitisation as well. The British Motor Museum was our first slide. We did a lot of Aston Martin build cards, little postcard size cards with all the detail of who first bought it, what the colours were, what the leather was, all this kind of information was on these cards. We captured those, and a lot more records from microfilm as well on the Aston Martin builds. These are a couple of other projects that we've just started with Federation members, the Bugatti Trust and the Motorcycling Club. We're in discussions with 5 or 6 other members about starting their projects. We're at the very early stages of them at the moment. So we haven't got the green light yet, but we're just about to start, hopefully. So I won't mention names. But then away from the Federation, just to give you an idea of what we do in the rest of the country, these are some of the organisations that we've captured their whole archive or certain large collections. So we do a lot. Country Life magazine was an amazing project. The whole photographic archive going back 120 years. We captured that. They did a special edition in June, I think it was, and it was just full of photos of mainly country houses, but it could be paintings within those country houses as well, cars of the time, various different country shots and everything like that. But everything in that magazine, that special edition, was captured in Nuneaton. And a lot with Getty Images as well. Foyle's Archive was a private collection, Foyle's Bookshop. We did all that family collection as well. So there's a whole manner of different museum collections or private collections. A lot of this stuff has not seen the light of day since it was first created. So basically that's just an overview of what we've been doing in this last year and what we do as well as the company. Also to put, faces to names as well. We will be at the Classic Motor Show event at the NEC in November. We will have a Lancia Delta Integrale body shell on show. It's just a bare one, and that's not because it's rotted through. It is because it's being built. It is a project. Chris's car, he owns that one. So if you want to talk about that project, please have a conversation. But basically, that's us, Genus. Please come and talk to us. And we just want to say, once again, thank you very much for being warmly welcomed into the Federation family. Thank you very much. And are there any questions?
Fortside Valve Owners Club. I think I mentioned it before lunch, but obviously Getty, another, is it Alamo or something like that? There's another one. Yeah. They've got all these photographs and such like, which they've got apparently copyrighted, but we've actually got a copy of press photographs from Ford in our club archive. Now, who actually owns that? Because I would have assumed it was Ford, not Getty.
Yeah, I mean, you ask a very important and difficult question there, and it's something we have to come across. There's a lot of collections we've had to turn down and say we can't digitise those because you as a club or you as an owner, you think you own them, but you don't own the copyright. And this is where Andy's publication coming up will be, really invaluable in terms of establishing that. The only true way is if there is a stamp on the back of that photograph saying who owns the copyright or whether that's been given away, that's your best clue in terms of doing that. But it is a grey area, you know, who does own that? But basically it's who was the original photographer. Now, was he an individual? In that case, it was he owns the copyright. Or was he employed by a car club or a media organisation? Then it's the organisation has the copyright on that. But it's proving that point. That's the difficult bit. I don't know if you've got anything more on that, Andy.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, for experience, most of the vehicle manufacturers tend to send photographs out copyright free. And I think Getty's attitude is if they've got the photograph, they whack copyright on it just to stop anybody taking it, whether they own it or not. I think it's their standard policy to put it on. But most car manufacturers' photographs are copyright free, if that helps at all. But it's very, very hard to prove it. And it could be a very expensive legal battle if you got into it. No.
Yeah, it's one of the first topics we discuss with potential clients is, do you own the copyright and are you sure? Because we normally get told, oh yeah, they're ours. Well, they are yours, but you know, are you one of 50 people who got a copy of this image, or is it yours and yours only? Yeah.
You're getting your steps in, Carl. Yeah. This saves me walking tonight.
Probably should have asked you in the foyer, but do you have a method or a platform for capturing metadata about things like photographs? I mean, I've talked to people about their collections where they are wanting to tag people that are in the photographs and so on, and potentially even go out to their membership and ask them to populate information about the information that they've actually stored, the actual digital file.
Yeah, I mean, the metadata is key to actually finding that image afterwards. It's all very well digitising it, but how do you identify that? And that comes down to an individual conversation with each owner of the information. You know, that could be just a date, it could be a place, it could be a name, but then a lot of images, you could want 7 or 8 identifying pieces of information about that one image or that one document. One of the things we do with BRM, with the Recollect collection, is we have this sort of winding path you can go down so that an image could be identified as a particular car at a particular circuit with a particular driver that either won or did not win, and you can go into that and say, okay, I could start my journey by looking for cars, and you find that car and think, oh, that was Graham Hill. And then you click on the Graham Hill part, and then you go into what Graham Hill did, all the different cars he drove, the different races he won, and that's one way of actually getting the metadata and giving you the index information. But it could be a more simple spreadsheet version where you say, okay, this is my spreadsheet, we've identified we need these 4 index fields, and then we will help you fill that spreadsheet as and when we add those images into your final submission. Okay. Oh, one more.
Thank you. It's John Broad here again. Just a rather obvious question, I think. I think I know the answer already. You say you're capturing this data. Where is it actually stored? I mean, I presume you're doing it on behalf of a company like BRM. They'll take away a copy, but do you keep a copy? And is there any protection against EMP?
Yeah, we go on what the client asks us to do. The real answer to your question is we do not keep a copy long term. We keep it for either 6 months or a year while the client gets their system or what they want organised, just in case they mess it up. which we've seen before, and they've lost the information. So we keep it for a while, but that's a pre-agreed amount of time. And then once we get to the point where the client says, okay, I'm comfortable, we delete it and it's gone. We have no inclination or memory space to actually keep all this information. It's not in our interest at all. So once it's gone, it's gone. And then from that point of view, our clients have a mix of what they do. Some just keep it on a hard drive just in case. Others put it on a website like Recollect, but obviously there's other solutions as well. Others share it within the organisation. There's a mix of different ways of how you keep that information. I mean, we always say that you must keep multiple copies of your digital information. So don't rely on one. It's just like relying on one piece of paper in a damp archive. You know, you don't want to do that. But by freeing up the hard copy, which is sat in a cardboard box somewhere, finally you can either present that to the public just so that they can see, but you give it to thousands of other people to actually see that information. So suddenly it's live information. So there's a value in that. There's also a potential value in selling prints of that, or just access to see the digital image. But it's what I think it's one of the big parts of the digitisation process. Is you need to understand what are you going to do with those digital images at the end point before you come to somebody like us, because we might approach it in a different way. If you're just doing it to put on a hard drive, you don't necessarily need so much indexing information, but if you're doing it to sell prints, you need a higher resolution copy, that kind of thing. So it really is important that you understand what are you going to do with these digital images. And you'd be surprised by how many people say, I don't know. We just want to digitise it. and then we have to have a serious conversation. Well, you need to think about that, because there's no point digitising it if you're not going to do anything with it. If you're just going to put it on a hard drive and leave it in the loft, you might as well just keep the originals in the same way.
Thank you. Bob Kemp, Austin Healey Club. Do you have any ways of electronically copyright tagging what you scan?
We can on the presentation of the digital images. So we can either provide low resolution versions that can go on a website, or we can put like a watermark on the images so you gain protection of it. So they're the two main ways of protecting that image. Normally, an image you see on a website is 72 dpi. If you go and try and print that, the print's going to be awful. So you can protect it from that angle. BRM, for example, they've done the same. They keep all their high-resolution images off the website. So even with somebody knowing what they're doing, they could steal them, but they're stealing a low-resolution copy. So that would be our two recommendations: either just have a low resolution available to everybody else, or watermark it. Okay. No? Okay. I think that's it. Okay, thank you all very much. Okay.
Well done, Colin. Well, I hope you found that useful. I think we pitched it about right, 30 minutes for both presenters. So thank you very much, Tom and Gemma and Paul, Chris and Andrew for supporting us. I think both projects actually are quite long burn. You need to get into them over a period of time, have the opportunity to reflect, ask questions, and then progress to the next stage. So I think it's well worth arranging that level of exposure. Thank you, Carl, for getting your steps up around the room for us. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the Federation's AGM and conference this year. We'd like to thank all of you who are in the room for your attendance, and also those of you who are sitting at home, hopefully feeling good about the material we've been able to share with you. Now, So as far as the Federation's concerned, that is the end of the day. There's a cup of tea outside in just a moment or two. But David Simister, who's the editor of Classic Car Weekly, broached a question to me a little while ago, and I think he would just like to come and address you literally for 2 minutes to ask a question. Yeah, sure. Yep. Come on, David.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak to you. What I'm interested to find out is, obviously I work in publishing, and we've seen this on Classic Car Weekly. The cost of paper stock has really gone up over the last year or so, and it's forecast to continue doing so. And what I'm interested to find out is from you as members of clubs, those of you who are involved in putting together traditional club magazines, is how is that, are you finding that's a cost that you're having to bear? Is that something which you're having to factor into your budget? So just interested to hear more about what your experiences are as clubs at the moment about producing traditional club newsletters at the moment with the increasing cost of paper stock.
Oh, on your feet.
Silence. Sure.
Thank you. I'm Nick Jeffrey, Brough Superior Club. We produce a traditional printed newsletter. Our membership is, as some of us in the room are getting older and older. There is strong resistance to going to any other method, e.g. digital, even though we do produce it digitally. Our printer is telling us his print costs are going up a lot, paper and other costs. And to answer the question, yes, it is a problem. And we are going to have to put up our subs accordingly. And then there'll be whinges from people who, oh, it's going up £2, I can't afford it for next year, and all the sort of normal club issues. But yes, it is a problem, very much so. What's prompting your question? Are you going to absorb all the extra costs yourself, so you won't put up the
certainly from our point of view, I mean, we are very much a print-based business, and magazines across the board, not just in motoring magazines, but also, all the magazines when you go into WH Smith's, they're all having to face this issue at the moment of if you are selling or distributing printed products at the moment, that cost of paper stock and the cost of printing it is, I think it's gone up by 40% over the past year or so. So it's something which obviously most of you who will know me will know that I'm passionate about classic cars and clubs. So I'm just keen to sort of see if there are any sort of views from the members about whether or not that, similar to yourself, whether that is something which you're finding you may struggle with in the future, or whether you're taking any measures to mitigate those increased costs at all. There's a gentleman here, yes.
Yeah, hi. Mark One, Cortina Owners Club again, sorry. We are a small club of just 1,000 members worldwide, and we send a magazine out and have done from day one, 1982, every 2 months. But we also have about £500,000 worth of spares up at Whitley Bay, and we have a turnover of about £250,000 a year. And, the money we make on the spares, we're using to offset that. Our biggest costs last year were actually postage going up, so we have actually slightly reduced our magazine to keep the weight down, and that's helped. But we have a good printer company that we work with, and we do offer it digitally as well. So some of the overseas members, for instance, get it digitally.
No, thank you very much for that.
Jacqueline Bickerstaff in the Vincent HRD Motorcycle Club. And actually some of what I've got to say just echoes that. It's not really the print cost that has been our problem recently, but the postage cost, because we're an international club as well. And the postage costs went up a lot. And furthermore, especially during COVID, the postal delays were a real problem, caused our overseas members. So we have just embarked on making it available digitally. This is an experiment we're not at the end of, so, you know, come and talk in a year's time. Currently, because we're also an older motorbike club, not going to tell you how old I am, but not young. Yeah, the overwhelming feeling at the moment is that we need a print magazine. People like to actually read a print magazine, and certainly I get one magazine, a couple of magazines by email, and I don't read them like I read a print magazine. So I think print is here for a good bit longer. Everybody says it's dead, but when I go into Smith's, the magazine racks are still full.
Yeah, I think just whilst you move across to you gentlemen, something that just occurred to me, we actually mailed the AGM booklet, this, you know, which is 32 pages, so there was a bit of weight in it. We actually mailed this with a copy of FBHVC News last time. We've traditionally sent this separate to the magazine. And Emma and I were looking at the costs of distributing it the other day when the invoice came from our supplier. And the big difference that we found was mailing second class. Because, as Jacqueline's just said, you know, with post delays and the like, to be honest, I think first class post is a waste of time because it's going to turn up, you know, Emma's going some weeks when she waits a week to actually get a postal delivery. So we went to second class delivery, combining it with the magazine. And we saved over £1,000 on that one transaction. That's not all year, but just one transaction, it was £1,000. And you've got to do that, haven't you? Because it's otherwise your subscriptions are just going to go through the roof.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because I mean, we certainly from our perspective we've been looking purely at printing costs because we print them, we take them out to shops, they go into Smith's, Tesco's, wherever.
Yeah.
But actually hearing so much about the postage costs actually as well, I think that's a real eye opener as well.
Okay, well, I'm Adrian Dean from the Lancashire Automobile Club. I'm told that we are the second oldest automobile club in the UK, and of course we do have old members, of which I am one, and we're trying to expand our club to include younger members, and we produce a little magazine called All Talk in full colour, which, as already mentioned, it's very expensive, both printing and postage. But we think that the younger generations are more interested in the internet than they are on a piece of paper or a magazine. So we are looking at producing our All Talk, just a few copies maybe for those older members of the club who haven't yet got a computer or a mobile phone. And there are some of them, by the way. And we're going to do email out, which we think will attract a younger audience. So we'll be able to report back on that and let you know how we get on.
I'll be interested to hear the findings in that case. No, thank you very much. Yeah. It's quite a few hands, actually.
Two behind you, Carl. Oh.
I have one in front then.
Oh.
You've all seen me before, but I speak now as a member of 6 clubs, an old member of 6 clubs. I get immensely more enjoyment sitting relaxed in the chair reading a hard copy magazine, and Jacqueline said earlier, than sitting in the front of the computer for another hour, having already spent the day doing it, reading it online. I am single, I have no children. If I had any children, I'm sure they'd tell me I'm talking nonsense and would express the opposite view. So I suspect that, amongst other complications, it's generational.
I would suspect so.
Blimey, David, this is a real popular
I was going to say.
More questions than anybody else had. Go start charging.
Exactly. Keep me busy.
Hi, Mike Rotherhurst, forward side of our Owners Club. Really, just to reiterate what most of other people have said this evening, we have roundly 1,200 members, and we do provide a magazine to them. The demographic is similar to others in that most of them would want it in a hard copy. We have a further complication in that as a reasonably small club, we also own our own premises. And we've also got to contend with horrendous increases in utility costs. And we are reluctant to increase membership fees. So we're looking at the moment, the only way out is to look at our reserves. And this is again something that is on all our minds and we really do not know which way to turn.
No, thank you for that.
Anders Clausen, Society of Automotive Historians, but also I can speak on behalf of the Michael Setzer Memorial Trust. The first point I'd like to make is that if you do a digital club magazine, you also have to devise systems for archiving them for the future. But I dare say that Andy and Dinas will help you with that. The next point is that if you think you have it bad with publishing club magazines, just think of the poor book publishers, who are also faced with horrendous increases in paper costs, penny costs. Book prices will creep upwards, and sadly also there is now a tendency for books to become bigger, bulkier, heavier and more expensive. The day of the £300 book is already here. A lot of us can't afford that, so I think that we, in the Setzer Trust, we aim to assist authors and publishers by giving loans or grants toward publishing texts that might otherwise not have seen the light of day. And we'd like to continue to do that, but I think we would also encourage our authors and our publishers to try to put a lid on what they actually expect to be able to sell the book for. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a gentleman just over here as well.
Hi, it's me again. Just thinking about publishing, if you are going to digital, and this is just from experience with my background in marketing previously, you probably want to be looking at something that you can look at from a mobile phone perspective with the younger generation, because if you try and put a print magazine onto a mobile phone, you just cannot read it. So think about that if you are trying to attract that younger generation, really.
Ian Arthur from Cherry Fickle Insurance again, but also a member of 4 or 5 clubs, and this is speaking personally. I love magazines, club magazines. I read them, and they're actually memories. If you go online, you scroll past a picture and it's gone. And my children have appeared in a couple of club magazines with their car restorations, and they are going to hold that magazine for years to come, and that's preservation as well. So I think as soon as you put something online, it loses its touch a little bit. So if my club fee goes up, I accept it goes up. I would much prefer to have a bi-monthly or quarterly magazine with really good content rather than perhaps a monthly magazine where the content's getting thinner and thinner. So again, a little bit of feedback. If it's a case of doing a bi-monthly or quarterly magazine but a really good high quality one, personally I would prefer that rather than a monthly one where we're struggling to fill the space.
That's great, thank you. I think there's a lady in the corner just there as well.
Right, 2 more questions.
So it's a popular issue.
You can't come again.
Thank you. Madeline Grubb from Boundless by CSMA. CSMA is an organisation that originally started as a car club 100 years ago next year. We've had a magazine ever since it started. The consensus is that the magazine works because the magazine goes to every single member. They haven't got to look for it on the internet, it's there. It also is available for if you've left it around somewhere, somebody else will look at it and ask about the content and the organisation. So that's how we feel it works.
Thank you.
Last question. Oh, yeah, Nick Owen, go on. We haven't heard from Nick all day.
Hi, Nick Owen from BRM. This is more just two observations from the work we've done so far. As BRM, we've got a younger audience who we serve via a newsletter. As the BRMA, the BRM Association, it's traditionally an older generation that is serviced by a club magazine about every half year. We want to keep both going. It's about trying to find a compromise that works for everyone. And one thing I'm exploring is the newsletter only goes out digitally, but at the end of the year, we might do a print publication of different things from the newsletter. So our goal is to very much keep both publications going in both formats, but to try and understand where we can save costs, but also where we can make some money. And a summary of the newsletters, say every year in a print format, would be one way we can potentially bring a little bit more money in. And it's very much a work in progress, so I will keep you posted.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Thank you all for your feedback and for humouring David with his question.
Thank you for giving me the platform.
That's all right, no problem. Thanks, David.
No problem.
And just in closing, Emma has just received an email from Tamsin Coxon from the Cornwall Austin 7 Club, which says, just wanted to express my appreciation for the live stream of the above. I have watched with considerable interest. So there have been people out there watching as well. So I think all in all, a good day's activity. Thank you very much. Have a cup of tea and a safe journey home. Thank you.